Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Opinion Machine. My name is Killjoy, and today we're going to be talking a bit about Sonic Mania. So for those who don't know, Opinion Machine is just a show where we talk about views, good or bad, on things in the gaming world. So yeah, like I said, we're going to be talking about Sonic Mania today. A little bit late doing this video. Basically just want to give my thoughts on this. So Sonic Mania is a game that recently came out last month, it was, so, and it's basically a new step in the 2D line of Sonic games. It's designed to feel like a classic Sonic game in the same vein as Sonic 1, 2, 3, Knuckles, and Sonic CD. Obviously this had a lot of hype behind it because the game was looking very much like the sort of Sonic game that people wanted to play. And I think for the most part the guys that made the game did a really good job of making a game that feels like and plays like a classic Sonic game. So I've got a few things I want to go over, what I think is good about the game, what I think is bad about the game. I definitely think the game is flawed in certain ways that reduced my enjoyment of the game, but we'll get to that. So let's start off with just like the visual look to this game is really nice. It looks like a game straight out of the sort of Mega Drive Saturn era. You have beautifully designed level graphics, really nice things going on in the background. Also seeing the old levels in this game return with new environment hazards and new artwork, things like that. Very nice looking game. Also controls as you'd expect. It feels like it's straight out of a Mega Drive or like I said, a Sega Saturn. It plays as a Sonic game. There is no change there. They have a new move that they're adding called the drop dash, but other than that you're basically playing like you picked this game, you know, 10-20 years ago, just picked it up, and it definitely feels like it's from that time. The thing they really nailed with this game was the look of the game and the feel and controls of the game. Like if the game didn't play like the old Sonic games, then I think they would have missed the mark. If you've ever played Sonic the Hedgehog 4, that game, while I don't mind it, definitely has its problems and doesn't handle or control like an old style Sonic game at all. What's nice about this game is that, yeah, you get to play it as you would imagine. You get to play it as Sonic, Tails and Knuckles, and Sonic and Tails, which is great. They have the ability, you know, they play as you'd imagine. You know, Tails can fly, Knuckles can glide and climb walls, and Sonic can jump higher and speed through his way through things. So you have that choice there. Moment-to-moment gameplay is as you would expect. It's exactly how you imagine a classic Sonic game to be. You have your start, you have Act 1, Act 2 of every level. You have your mid-boss and your final boss. You have your special stages, you have your bonus stages, and the gameplay revolves around you running mostly fairly quickly in the earlier stages, and then a bit more precision platforming later on. What's cool is you have the blue sphere, making its return from Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Sonic Knuckles. I really like that game, definitely one of the better choices. I think it's nice to see that over Half-Pipe make a return. So you're basically collecting all these blue spheres, and there's about 50 of these, and every time you get one and complete one you get like a little emblem, and these basically unlock extra content in the game. So you get like extra modes, unlocks other abilities from older Sonic games to replace the new one, and things like that. Really cool fun bits of content, sort of pad out the experience, so it gives it that replay value and lets you play the game with the abilities that you know and love from the older games. Apart from the main single player, you have a race mode, which is fun, and that lets you race on literally every single level that you've unlocked so far in the game. They've got a time attack mode, which is obviously there for speedrunners. It looks like fun. I haven't played that bit of it yet. But overall, I'd say the package you get with this game is really good. And now if you look at the levels they've implemented, you've got Green Hill Zone, you have Chemical Plant Zone, you have Oil Ocean Zone, you have Metallic Madness, and then you have there's about 8 worlds, 9 worlds returning, and there's 4 new ones, and the new ones feel like they've been ripped straight out of older games anyway. So they did a really nice job of combining these new stages with new ideas, but also making it feel like it's straight from a Sonic game from yesteryear. So that's really cool. And what's fun about these old stages is you start off playing the level, like if you take Chemical Plant 1, Chemical Plant 1 starts off how you might remember Chemical Plant 1 being, and as you're going through the level it becomes Chemical Plant 2. So you've got Act 1 and Act 2 from the original game kind of merged into one level. And then when you finally get to Act 2 of Chemical Plant in this game, it's completely new. New level, new mechanics, new music, everything like remixed. And they do a fantastic job of playing with your expectations a lot of time in this game, which is nice. So you'll be like playing Green Hill Zone, you know, oh, I know this bit, and then you hit the second level, you're like, I don't know any of this is completely new. Same with Chemical Plant, Oil Ocean, Hydro City, all of these levels are basically familiar but very different. And I think that works wonders because it lets people go, oh wow, I remember this, and then suddenly No, I don't remember this, but I still have that feeling of remembering how great the game was when I played it back when I was younger. So for the most part in this game, the level design is really good. Obviously they're using older levels and level templates to create these new levels and these remix versions. But I think they do a fantastic job of creating these really wonderful levels you want to run through, you want to play for, you want to explore. There are obviously multiple routes like you'd imagine from a Sonic game. And then we have the bosses. Now this is my biggest complaint about the game. So up until this point, I really enjoyed the levels in the game and the remix levels and the new ones and everything really fun. And then I encountered multiple problems with the boss fights. Now the boss fights in most Sonic games usually aren't particularly difficult and they're usually not that interesting either, so this is not really any different. But there are a few boss fights in this that don't really explain themselves very well, or are too easy, too much of a difficulty spike. They don't feel very well paced out. In Green Hill Zone, for example, the first boss fight you fight is these two balls. One swings around on the other ball, and then they switch between one being spiky and then the other one not being. Similar to the original Pendulum Robotnik fight you have in the first boss fight in the first game. Then you fight the second boss, which is basically Robotnik in his Death Egg walker machine thing. Obviously very simplified, very easy. So these aren't too bad. But then I think after the first zone you start to see problems. Chemical Plant's first boss is basically just an orb that picks up blue stuff, goes into the air, fires it off, you can hit it, rinse and repeat. It's not very interesting. And then I hit the first boss that I think is really good, but obviously difficult for me. So you get a Mean Bean Machine boss fight where you're fighting Robotnik while playing Mean Bean Machine, which is great, except that I'm colorblind, so I have a real difficulty playing that fight because I struggle between the blue and the purple beans, which meant that I was losing that fight, and it reduced my enjoyment of the game so much. It's like every time I play through Chemical Plant, I don't want to do that boss. Now that's a very limited number of people that this is going to affect, but I think they should definitely consider maybe putting a colorblind mode in or switching some colors out there just to make it easier, because I like Tetris style games and I like Mean Bean Machine, but I'm not very good at it because of the color problem there. So that was obviously a big issue for me. But as the game went on, I was facing more bosses. I'm not going to spoil too many of them, but a lot of them were either just really boring, or just there was one where I was trying to do it and I just couldn't figure out what I was doing for ages, and I was like, okay, this seems to be how it works. Then there's the Oil Ocean boss of Act 2, which I have numerous problems with, and I hate that boss, and it is like my least favourite boss in the entire game. I think it's poorly implemented, and yeah, I should say now, I haven't actually completed the game. I'm on the very last world. I played pretty much all of it. I put a fair amount of chunked time into playing a lot of these stages and replaying a lot of them, and it feels weird saying that like the levels are really good and the bosses are just that bad, and I really don't like the bosses in this game at all. I don't think any of them are particularly fun, except for the Mean Bean Machine, but obviously, like I said, I have my own problems with that. And that's the weirdest thing about this game. It's like great fun to play in terms of level design, really fun remix levels, really cool original levels, great, like fantastic, just a lot of fun. And then you get to the boss fights and you're just like, these aren't fun at all. And it made me wonder, it's like, maybe the boss fights in Sonic games have never really been that good. I mean, even the boss fights in the first two games, I mean, they're fairly fun, but they're not particularly great. They're not really the most memorable things, apart from maybe the Casino Night pinball level, which is an absolute nightmare. It sort of sucks. Like, I wanted to enjoy the boss fights a lot more than I did, but none of them were particularly interesting, and they just went on a bit too long, or they were just like, one boss, the Oil Ocean Zone Act 1 boss, the first time I did it, he didn't even move. It was like, I killed him and I was like, well, what? Whereas after that, I played him multiple times and I found out what he actually did, and I was like, well, this is just rubbish. Like, this boss isn't very good. So it's kind of weird talking about this game in this day and age where it's like, we have this wonderful Sonic game that's been remade or made by fans for fans, and you can obviously see that in the love and the detail and the attention to everything in this game. When you play the boss fights, you're just like, these are rubbish. These aren't fun. They're not well designed. They're not interesting like some of the older games. I mean, just one of the bosses is just you running and waiting for him to fire missiles and then hitting the right missiles and then rinse and repeat like 4 or 5 times. It goes on way too long, overstays its welcome, and it's just like, this isn't what I want from a Sonic game. I want like the old sort of boss fights that are fairly, you know, simple and they get gradually harder. I will say that Hydro City Act 2 actually does have a really cool reimagining of one of the boss fights, which I really liked, and I thought that was very clever. but those are so few and far between in all the boss fights in this game. It's just disappointing. I think the other big problem I have with this game is purely on the basis that it's very easy to get crushed. Like, too easy to get crushed in this. If you played Sonic 2, you remember the part in Chemical Plant Act 2 where you run into these blocks, the water starts rising, and you have to jump on these blocks and they're moving back in a particular order. I got crushed there multiple times, many times when I played it, and I was like, I don't know why this is happening. Why are there places that, you know, you shouldn't be dying there, really? Like, it's not that hard. But I was getting crushed by various things, and it was just like, this is really frustrating, and I'm not sure why it's that way. Overall, I'd say the game is fairly fun. If you can look past the dodgy bosses and enjoy the level designs, absolutely brilliant. Like, really, really fun. There's a lot of content there, really, for your money. Doing all the special stages, I didn't even talk about those. The special stages is like you chasing down a UFO in this sort of early polygonal graphics sort of arena thing that you'd imagine from sort of Sonic R from on the whichever system it was on. I think it was either on the CD or the Saturn, and they're really fun. So there's a lot of stuff in this game that's really, really enjoyable. The level design, the bonus stages, the special stages, the 2-player mode, the extra content you can unlock. But for me, it's a shame because I really, really liked this game, and I followed this game a lot. And I was like, yeah, great, this is going to be amazing. It's going to be just like Sonic of yesteryear. And then when I played it, it was just like, this is like a game of two halves to me. Like, I'm having a really good time playing the levels, and I'm having a really bad time doing the bosses. Like I said, maybe one or two of the bosses are alright, but most of them are just boring and tedious, and it's just a shame. It's a shame that that the boss fights weren't more interesting. Now, I know, like I said, they're never being overly complex, but I would have thought in this day and age they would have been a lot more interesting, or what they did with the bosses. Basically, that's my thoughts on the game. I think people should absolutely pick it up and play it. I think it's good to reward the fact that these guys who are fans of the games made a solid game. Whenever they make another one, which I hope they do, I hope that they would get either more returning stages from the other games, like the ones that I'd like to see personally, like Casino Night, stuff like that, come back. Or we get to see them make a game like this, but with all brand new stages. I think that would be also really fantastic, and hopefully they can make the boss fights better the next time round. I don't know whose design ideas were on them, but I think that's definitely the thing that needs to change in another Sonic 2D Sonic game. Overall, though, like I said, I'd say go out and buy it. You know, it is a fun game. But that's just my thoughts on the game for today, so thank you very much for listening and or watching this video. Feel free to comment if you disagree with me, comment in the comment section below, and let's have a discussion about it. If you really like the game, let me know. If you really didn't like it, let me know that too. Other than that, guys, I will see you next video.